Hello, you wonderful people. I hope you're doing awesome. In this video, I just want to talk about a project that I'm building that you can use to try out. And it's a simple website built with React using React Router 7 framework mode. And of course, using Strapi, our headless CMS to power our application. And that's exactly what I show you how to build in the Strapi crash course that's found here on YouTube. I'm in the midst of recording the Astro videos, but I wanted to get this video out there because I had to build this example project for a blog post that I'm working on. And so why not share it with you, give you a walkthrough, and let you have the code so you could play with it and take a look how you could get started with React Router 7 with React. And of course, you could check out their documentation. I went ahead and used it in their framework mode, which is basically amazing. And of course, we're using Strapi headless CMS for our project, which is kind of nice too. And if you want to learn more about Strapi, you could, of course, check out the video. I'll link to a description and then below. I walk you through a full crash course here on YouTube, absolutely free for you to watch. And we're using Shadcn UI components for our front end to make it much cleaner and nicer looking. And in Strapi, what they do have, something that I haven't mentioned yet, they have a Strapi SDK, which allows you to easily fetch your data. And so before we jump into all the details, let's do a quick overview of the project here. So here's the landing page. You have your basic websites. We have, our homepage, you have an article, and our landing page has dynamic content. And all of this content is coming from our Strapi backend. If you take a look at our Strapi application, you go to our content manager. Here we have a landing page, and the sections from the landing page is exactly what you see here. What's cool, we also have our featured articles that you could click on, and it will take you to the single view. We have our basic article with the content, with our author, and we're able to navigate back to the article so you could pick any other article that you want. So very basic, simple blog website. So if you're new to development or just want to see how to get started with React Router 7 or to integrate it with a headless CMS like Strapi, this project will be perfect for you. And you can find it on my GitHub. I'm going to show you how to set this up locally in just a minute, but let's go through all the details to show you how the application works. But before that, we could check out the README, kind of covers the tech used, React Router 7, using TypeScript, Tailwind 4, amazing stuff. Backend, we're using Strapi 5. And because we're running it locally, it's not deployed. We are using SQLite database, which is perfectly fine. And it's very easy to get started with this project that you could see all the details here. And here you could kind of see the structure of our project. In our client, we have our React application, which has our app folder. And inside there, we have our components that I'll jump into details in a little bit, our routes that we'll take a look as well. And for our Strapi standpoint, all of our backend is hosted with Strapi, and we're able to hit our Strapi endpoint to get all of the data that we'll talk about. And what's cool, we are using dynamic content blocks. What's awesome about this, if you take a look at my project here, for instance, you see here, we have our hero section, and that correlates to our hero section on our homepage. So see here, build and launch without problem. Here's our lorem ipsum text. And if I go here in Strapi and I change this, you are all awesome, exclamation point, click publish. When we navigate back to our front end and refresh, notice we see the change. And then another thing here, maybe for some weird reason, you don't want this header to be here. You could easily just kind of like, oh, you know what? I want the section heading to be here on the top. You just move it, click publish. When you go to your website and refresh, you see these changes done dynamically, which is pretty cool and pretty awesome. I like this for the fact that this gives non-technical users a flexible way to allow them to manage their website without you as a developer having to mess with that. And so for our application, we're getting all of our landing page data from Strapi because this is a simple project that I wanted to build. We're not using all the data. We're just using the data from the landing page. And then we're also pulling the articles to populate our blog post. And here you could see that we have our title, description, our slug, our featured image, our content, who the author is, some tags. And in this project, if you go to one of the blog posts Again, because this is just a starter, I'm not showing all the tags and all this other stuff. But the fact that you're going to have the code for the starter, you could get started with this project and you could have a jump off point to build your project using React Router 7 and Strapi. So now let's take a look at the code. And if we take a look here, we have inside our project, we have our client folder, and our server folder is our Strapi application. And if you're kind of curious, how do we build the Strapi application? Look no farther, go to YouTube. And yes, I'm watching interesting videos, but if you type Strapi crash course 2025, most likely the first videos that come up are mine. And you could either watch it through the playlist, or I created a supercut, which is basically almost 3.5 hours of content walking you and showing you every step and every detail of exactly how we build our Strapi backend that our React Router 7 application is consuming. So back in the code, that's our server. That's our Strapi application that if you want to build it exactly like it did, or you could just download this project, you could check out the video. I'll link it in the description below. And here we have our React application using React Router 7 in framework mode. And all the magic is happening in the app folder. So if we take a look here, we have our components, our data, which is basically when I was creating this application, I just put the mock data here so I could build out the front end, but we're actually pulling the data from our API, which is our Strapi instance, and we're using our Strapi SDK. And here in the SDK.ts file, I went ahead and set up my Strapi client. And inside my API.ts file, what I did, let me just close some of these so it's easier to see, is I created these loaders that basically consume our SDK. And using the SDK, it makes getting data much cleaner because all you have to do is just say, SDK, get a single type named landing page, and hit the find endpoint and get all the data. And that's going to go ahead and return all of our data for our landing page. We're doing the same thing for articles. And then for our detailed article, we're fetching article by slug. So now that we have all these loaders, we could use them in our application. But before we do that, let's take a look at the route structure. We have our homepage, which is responsible for getting our landing page. So this is exactly what you see here. This is where all of our homepage content comes from. So if I go here in the code and inside this landing page, and for some reason I remove this, I go back, all of our content disappears. Why? Because this is where all of our content is coming from, and it's coming from our homepage. You're probably wondering, well, wait, when you remove the content, I still see the menu, but you're not showing the menu here. What the hell is happening? Well, in React Router 7 framework mode, you have this root.tsx, which is the root of your project. And when you take a look here, you could see that we have our app component, and this is exactly where we have our navigation, and all of our children's get rendered through this outlet. What I also did, if you take a look here, we define a layout, and I ended up creating a custom error boundary. So it came with like a boring looking error boundary. I went ahead inside my components folder, custom, created a whole new error boundary that kind of looks a little bit better with some nicer ways to handle our errors. For instance, if I go here and let me go back, I'll bring that back, I promise, in a second. Go to articles and we select an article. And for some reason, we look up an article that doesn't exist. We have this nice not found page. And what I did, I made this custom page so we could easily click go home and take us to a working session. Let me go fix this, by the way, add our content back. But before that, I created this custom error boundary, which we are using in our root.tsx file. So we have this fallback error boundary that we're exporting from the root of our project. And it happens to be our custom error boundary that I made. But let me go back to our homepage and uncomment this. So now we could see all of our content. Perfect. And if we take a look at our homepage, you notice that we're using a loader here, which runs server side, which is kind of cool. And so we're getting our data server side. This is great for SEO. And we're getting our get landing page loader, which is exactly what we defined inside our API.ts using our Strapi client SDK. So notice like how clean this is. We create an instance of our SDK. And then in our API.ts file, we just use a function to call it, and we use our TypeScript to type it. And you're probably saying, where's your try and catch? Like, how do you tell an error or like what is going on? So if you go to our homepage, I have this handle API error. If you go and take a look at this function, this is a function that does some basic checks and kind of throws the appropriate error when you're supposed to. So we kind of move it out here. So when we take a look at our homepage, the general pattern of the way we fetching our data, we have our loader function that calls our Strapi SDK. And then we have a nice, clean looking error handler. I had to do this extra one here just because the way I'm getting the data. But if data doesn't exist, we'll just throw not found. But once everything checks out from our loader, we get access to our data from using loader data, and we're able to pass it to our block renderer. Now, one thing you're going to notice, you're like, what the hell is this block renderer? Let's quickly take a look at this example. And this is like a cool pattern to dynamically display different blocks from Strapi. So that way you as a developer don't have to move things around. Whatever changes a non-technical user makes in Strapi admin panel, they'll reflect here. So if we take a look at the blocks folder, take a look at the block renderer, I created a couple of blocks, and these blocks match the blocks that I have in Strapi. Now in this start application, I didn't create all the blocks, but we have hero section with a heading, our card grid, content with an image, our markdown, person card, and features articles. And if you take a look at our Strapi application here, and you look at the home page or landing page, you're going to see we have these blocks. We have our hero section block, we have our section heading, we have our card grid with a bunch of different items. And these Strapi components represented by their equivalent in my React application. So I have these blocks that based on when we get the response from Strapi, it comes with like, okay, this is a hero block. This is a section heading block. And based on the block that is in our response, we show the appropriate item. For instance, go here, we have this section. Let's see, let me look at my front end here. Let's say we have this last kind of text with image. If I go here in Strapi, this is content with the image is the last one. I just delete it, right? I publish. When I go back and refresh, notice now we only have one text with image because we removed one. And notice how I didn't have to be a developer as a non-technical user. I was just able to make that change very easily. And this reason why it's possible is because we have this block renderer. So now when we're getting response, it's like, hey, one of the blocks with image doesn't exist. So I'm just going to return null. And this is a very clean way of doing it. And all the blocks that are associated with the landing page, I went ahead, put them in this folder. And they're very basic components. I'm just going to talk about kind of like what I've started doing. I don't know if it's the best way, but if you take a look at this hero section, I have my basic types that are shared with all the application, but then I have my component. And for my component, I'll do a typed interface. And this interface is going to define the shape of the props that this gets. And then I could just get the props and also get the typing that I need. Another thing that I started doing, like me personally, I hate when your HTML class names just go off the screen and becomes really ugly. And then if I'm trying to show you something on screen and I'm zoomed in, like it becomes like annoying. So I kind of went always and moved the styles into a style object, and then I just use it. Similar like if you use CSS modules, but this way at least like I'm able to use Tailwind with like components and like so on. And so to me, that's the approach that I do. And then I have my HTML and stuff like that. And then what else do I want to show you? So we talked about the landing page, the blocks, how we able to render our content. And so next we talked about our home route. If we have a fallback route, you could put the $. And then here I added a component when there's a not found and none of the routes match, it will automatically default to this one and it'll just display this not found page. So that's what the $sign says. It's like, hey, show this if nothing matches as like a fallback route. And then for our articles, we have our articles.index page, and I'm using the dot notation. And when you write stuff like this in React Router 7 framework mode, there's this root.tsx file. The routes.ts file. And here it will automatically write the routes and generate this for you. So you don't have to manually type the routes here. You kind of do the file-based routing here. The convention here, you could do folder notation. I like the dot notation where you just do articles.index, and that would be match the URL I don't know why this is not zoomed in, but if I do articles, it will take us to the articles index page, and articles index, where you see all this content, it's defined by article.index.tsx. And because it doesn't have any children and it's like the main route, you put this underscore before. You could definitely check out React Router 7 docs, but I just want to kind of show you quick here. And if you take a look at this application, we're following that same pattern. We're getting our loader from our API using Strapi SDK. Notice how clean this looks again. And of course, this is a basic project. You probably make this more complex, but we get our response. Then we have a handle error response to see if anything is funky. If there is, throw an error, and then returning that response. And then here, just like we've done before, we're just getting the response from the loader. And here I did it if there's no articles, just show an empty array so the page doesn't crash. You could put a message, hey, no articles found. And then here we have our basic component, and we have a card that iterates to our articles and shows our cards. And that's exactly what you see. These are the cards here. And then when you click on read more, this is going to match our slug that we have here. And how do you do that in React Router 7? Well, you do it with the $ preceding sign slug, and that's going to signify that this is a dynamic route. And if nothing matches, it will throw an error and go to our not found page here. And again, when you do, and if you do article.slug in our routes, it means it will go article and then whatever iDynamic is. And if nothing exists and it's not found, just like it's the case here, it's going to throw our 404 page. That is our fallback. If I go home, it's going to go ahead and take us back. And if we go to articles and we click read more, we have our single article. That's the route that we're on. And again, if you take a look inside the slug folder, you're going to notice that we're following the same pattern. We have our loader. We are getting our data. We're checking our stuff. I'm doing a secondary check just because we're getting our data, which is an array. And I just want to double check that if it has no data, that means there's no content found. Go ahead, throw article not found. And one call out that I want to do here, we're using the meta function. We have access to our loader data, and we're able to set our meta description dynamically. So that is pretty cool for SEO. And then, of course, we have our article details. That's using our article detail component, which basically takes our article data that I define here in the interface. So it's nicer to see the structure of the component. And I destructure the data that we're getting, which is title, description, content, feature, image, and author. And I'm just consuming it here in the JSX. And that's the basics of this project. And the reason why I wanted to kind of create this is one, because I think like it's kind of cool to see. I built this in about 2 days. And the big help for me was the fact that I already had the backend that I built with Strapi. And it was like fairly straightforward to create a simple website to consume my endpoint. And I was like, you know what? If I build this, let me share this with my community. So I'm going to share this code with all of you, and you could use it to jumpstart your React Router project. I know a lot of people love Next. I also love Next, but I also love Remix. We don't have Remix anymore. We now have React Router 7. So I'm kind of excited. And for me, if I had to give you a roadmap of kind of what I'm working on, this is my personal website. You could check out the courses that I do. They're all free. I finished the Strapi 5 crash course. You could check it out on my YouTube channel, or you could watch it here on this website. If you take a look at the courses. Next, we have Astra crash course. This is the one that I'm recording currently that we're going to do Next.js. And then I'm going to make one with React Router 7. But I didn't want to wait. I wanted to create like a really quick project. If someone wanted to get started with Strapi and React Router 7, boom, you have this starting project, which has a lot of pretty good established patterns for you to hit the ground running. And so the final thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to set up this project. Of course, you could take a look at the README and do it yourself, but I'll be nice enough. I'm just kidding. I'm not nice. I'm just going to do it anyway. We're going to go ahead and kind of walk you through the process. So the first thing I'm going to do is close this and open a new terminal window that we have here and show you how easy it is for us to start our project. So in the repo, I have GitHub CLI installed. You could either copy the command, but if you don't, just copy the URL. And then here you could do git clone and paste the URL. And I'm just going to say demo and click enter. This is going to go ahead and pull all of our project. Then you just CD into the demo. I need to learn how to spell. You CD into demo. And if you look at the README, you're going to see that I have some helpful commands. And the two commands you really just have to run is yarn seed and yarn dev. And so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to clear my screen so it's easier. Did I say yarn seed? I meant to say yarn setup first. And that's going to go ahead and install all the dependencies, both for your front end React Router project and your backend. While that's installing, by the way, you could just navigate to Paul Bratzlavsky, Strapi, /React/route/7, or those are dashes starter, and you could get access to the repo. Nice. Once everything installed, you do have demo data. So to set up the demo data, I'm going to clear the screen again. You do yarn seed, and that's going to go ahead and import the data that our Strapi project consumes. And once that's done, to start the project, I'm going to clear the screen again. You run yarn dev, and this is going to start both your front end and back end. So it's going to start your back end at localhost 1337, and it's going to start your front end. And this is all ready for you to extend and play with as you fit. And if you take a look at the Strapi admin, because this is our first time starting the project, you have to create your first admin user. And this could be anything you like, because this is running locally on your computer. But once you create, I mistyped the password, monkey1234, right? That's the best password ever. And once you log in, you'll be greeted with this dashboard area, and you'll be able to see all the articles that you have present here with all the content. And you have authors page, global landing page. You could explore the content type builder to kind of what each item consists of. And if you want to learn how to build this Strapi backend from scratch, boom, on YouTube, check out over 3.5 hours of content. But I wanted to get this quick video out there. And to be honest, I was so lazy to make a video. I've been so busy at work. It's annoying almost. But I'm like, here, let me just do and share this thing that I built. I hope you find value. I hope you enjoy it. And let me know in the comments any questions that you may have. And with that being said, I'm going to get back to recording Astro crash course so I could finish that as quickly as possible so I could make other tutorials for you. And by the way, let me know in the comments any other topics that you want me to cover that you may have. But with that being said, thanks so much. I'll see you in the next one.